How the hell is Jordan still standing? Surrounded by war, broke, and with zero oil. You have got Syria in the north, Iraq to the east, and Israel and Palestine to the west. And yet, somehow Jordan is calm, clean, and surprisingly stable. Why? What is the truth behind this miracle in the Middle East? Stick around. This might be the most eye-opening 5 minutes you'll spend today. I was actually in Jordan just a few weeks ago for business, and I'll be honest, I had my doubts. So I wanted to share with you all I learned about the Jordanian culture, history, politics, lifestyle, and overall happiness. So let's start with a short history about Jordan. Ancient times, the land of modern Jordan was home to ancient civilizations like the Nabateans, also the ones that built Petra, which I actually visited. It's one of the world wonders, and it's one of the most beautiful sights I've personally ever seen. It's an immensely epic feeling when you walk down the mountain basically into the main space where they had all of these carved out beautiful homes or houses, or basically I don't even know how to explain it. It's so mesmerizing. So I want you guys just to see it. I mean, it was an amazing experience. Okay, so the Nabateans, who are the ones that built Petra, the Ammonites, the Moabites, and the Edomites, I hope I'm saying it more or less correctly, they were part of the major empires such as the Roman, the Byzantine Empire, and then the Islamic, right? So then we have the Islamic area, which is the 7th century. Arab Muslims armies brought Islam to the region, right? So then it became part of the Umayyad, Abbasid, and later Ottoman Empire, right? So Ottoman Empire obviously was a very big impact from the 16th to 19th, 18th, and after World War I, following the fall of the Ottoman Empire, obviously Jordan was part of the British Mandate of Palestine. In 1921, Emir Abdullah established the Emirate of Transjordan under British override, okay? Then obviously afterwards follows the independence in 1946. Transjordan gained full independence, became the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, and Abdullah I became the very first king of this very kingdom, right? Then we have the 1948, the Arab-Israel War. That was the last time Jordan was in war, for what I understand. Jordan took control of the West Bank and East Jerusalem, which held until 1967, a 6 days war. That's how it's known and memorized in the history. And then now modern era, obviously, and that's what we're going to focus on a lot, is Jordan signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1994. Today, it's a stable constitutional monarchy under King Abdullah II now. So his son, balancing the modernization with traditions in a very challenging region, obviously. And that's why we're speaking about it. And that's why I find Jordan especially very interesting. Just again, going back to all of the countries, all of the wars, just recently Iran attacking Israel and Israel attacking Iran, basically them firing missiles. And obviously I was there, I was seeing all of it. It was not very first time. I mean, I was born in kinda a war in Angola back in the times to the border where we lived. We had like these guerrilla wars and stuff, but this was the real full-blown war in the sense of, two countries attacking each other and Jordan in the middle. But that's exactly why I want to speak about this topic, because Jordan felt still very safe, even though there was attacks from Iran, all the missiles, all the drones flying over Jordanian airspace to target Israel, and then Israel obviously sending all of its missiles and drones, and even then later on hypersonic missiles over the Jordanian airspace, the Syrian airspace. Then Yemen actually also started, but most of it went over Jordan, okay? And we saw that, and that's crazy. And again, it felt very safe. People stayed very calm. There were sirens going on all the time, and that sparked the interest in my mind to understand how Jordan actually works. And I talked to a lot of people, but I got nothing to say but love and respect for the Jordanian people and everyone that lives in Jordan. It's a beautiful country with beautiful history, with beautiful sights, beautiful people, insane food. Honestly, I've never eaten so well in my life. I was full every day, and all of that is due to my host in honor, Mamoon, and his friends and my friends that, showed me around, explained me everything. But let's get down and into it. Let's speak about politics. Now, when it comes to politics and stability, one of the main points we need to talk about is the peace treaty between Israel and Jordan. And that's why especially this country and living there is pretty stable and pretty safe nowadays, because obviously they have, I want to say an ally, right? I still feel obviously many people living in Jordan, and Jordan obviously has a lot of Palestinians, has a lot of Syrians living there. They kind of resent a little bit the peace treaty with Israel, obviously, because they are are mostly against it. They are Muslims, most of them, right? You also have Christians in Jordan and many other religions, but mainly they are Muslims. And obviously they are standing besides their brothers in Palestine that are being attacked by Israel, and they are standing with Iran that is obviously then attacking Israel just recently, right? It seems like this war is over now, and still it's very, very stable because of these reasons. And then we need to ask ourselves the question, is it justifiable to have a peace treaty with Israel, therefore Jordan being safe, being a safe place for especially Palestinian immigrants? Because in the peace treaty it says that Palestinian immigrants, for what I have understood by the tellings of the people that live there, they get a passport easier so they can stay and live there. So it's kind of a lot of controversy around that peace treaty. Some people resent it, some people at the same time they kind of like support it, because at the end of the day it makes their life stable. Obviously, if not, they're just by Israel, they're just next to them, and including them into the war. We saw what happened to Lebanon when Israel started to attack them, and that's obviously nothing they want for their people. So it's kind of crazy to see how they keep the stability and their connections when it comes to politics. They're obviously supported by the West, right? Especially now, you saw that when Iran started to attack Israel, Jordan said they will be basically independent, but they will shoot down every missile that flies through the airspace. It doesn't matter which one, but then at the end of the day, it was that they were allowing Israel to shoot their missiles at Iran and not interfering with them, but at the same time interfering with the ones from obviously Iran. So it's kind of like a little bit of an outcast in a sense to the Arabs, especially when you compare it to this very example, what just recently happened when the war. But at the same time, they are very good in managing their own peace, being more or less neutral, right? So that's where their stability comes from, because obviously they got big support from the West. I know that somehow in the family of the rulers of the country, right? I think one of the moms is from Britain, and they went all to British school, and there's a lot of connections to the West, right? We can go deeper into that, but that doesn't really matter, because it matters for what we are saying and what we are talking about is that there is connection, there is stability. There also, I heard that the prince's wife is from Saudi Arabia, so there's the connection to the Arabs. So they're kind of playing both sides, kind of like the United Arab Emirates, which is very similar to their stance, right? They support whatever is good right now and whatever is good for their country, and I pretty much like it, because Jordan needs to look out for their country, and that's what they're doing with great stability, with great peace, and especially with a very big defense. So when it comes to politics and stability, definitely very, very stable. Obviously, some people would still say it's dangerous around that times, especially now with all of the conflicts in the Middle East. But still, again, I felt insanely stable. All of the missiles above our head were interfered. It was amazing to see that. I got a lot of respect for that. It's crazy. And they're definitely punching over their weight when it comes to military and when it comes to keeping their country safe, which again, for me, as a person that visited Jordan and got stuck there because of the war, I felt very safe. They handled it very well. There was no panics. There was nothing. So therefore, it reflects the stability that the politicians, the leaders of the country, and great respect for that. When it comes to lifestyle and nature, Jordan has an amazing lifestyle with very, very cheap food, very cheap, basically everything. It's a very cheap country. Obviously, comparing from where you come from, I live in the UAE. If I compare that, before that I lived in Germany, if you compare that to prices for food in general, let's say supplies, the lifestyle is amazing that you can live there, right? I also heard that they're supporting their own people, especially by reducing the prices for bread, reducing the prices for food in general if you're a Jordanian person. So they're supporting their country heavily and their own people, obviously, which I like, right? There I would turn more to a nationalistic stand to take care of your own people, and that's exactly what they're doing, right? But at the same time, they have pretty open borders, especially for Palestinians, for Syrians, for mainly other countries that had wars in the past or instability and therefore took a lot of people. Obviously, they cannot take all of them. So there's definitely rules in place and regulations how you can become part of the country. Also, when are you allowed to, for example, buy real estate, have a company, and all of these kind of things. There's restrictions depending if you are Jordanian or obviously not. But just in general, going into lifestyle and nature, obviously nature is top notch. A lot of greenery, which I was amazed about. They have a lot of desert, obviously. They have stone deserts, kind of like more mountains where Petra is in this area. So we even went to a certain resort in the desert where they filmed all of these space movies, right? Because it basically looks similar to Moon. And we were there and it's just stunning sand dunes and then mountains in the background. So they have a very diverse, let's say, nature, but at the same time, it's a beautiful nature. And the lifestyle that I've lived and felt for, let's say, a little bit more than a week, right? Planned was 3 nights, but I got stuck over a couple of days because I couldn't leave the Jordanian airspace because it was basically closed, right? But again, very, very helpful people, very, very friendly, very open. As you may know from Arab culture, very comparable to Lebanese, the Levant style, where you're basically outside all the time, you're eating, everyone is happy to see you, everyone greets you, everyone wants to know where you're from, what you think about them, they ask you if you like it. So it's a very nice, peaceful, chill lifestyle over there with comparable, pretty cheap prices, and you basically still got everything that you need when it comes to technology, when it comes to infrastructure. The lifestyle is just amazing. I love the Arabic lifestyle, especially I've been in Lebanon a couple of years ago, and especially in Jordan. It is an amazing lifestyle where food dominates definitely on daily basis. That's what they love to eat, and the food is just amazing. I can just not tell you guys, you need to try it yourself. And nature, again, Petra and their sites and then their historical culture with still Roman remaining theaters, for example, in Amman directly in the capital of the city. And also when it comes to lifestyle, the country itself, obviously you have a very diverse culture. During the many wars that we had in the past and instability, especially in Syria and Palestine, obviously many Syrians, Palestinians, but you also got a lot of other people coming there. You got a lot of tourism going on there, and obviously it's beautiful because everything just works, but they still remain very Islamic to their culture. You got mosques obviously everywhere, but they are very, very open for you to visit it, to see their heritage, to see their places. And that's what I love, because obviously there's many places where it's not allowed, they are very disrespectful, they're not very open. You feel like a tourist. I didn't feel like a tourist at all. I felt part of the culture, and all of the people surrounding me were very, very grateful to see me. They're very happy to help me, to make me understand how their ways, how their culture functions and works. And they were very, 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 let's say, indifferent, even though when I maybe did something wrong or I said something wrong, which I normally don't do, but they're very open, but they're also very direct to correct you in their terms, and that's what I love. So very respectful, and it was a beautiful lifestyle that I lived for a couple of days. Now, we especially said that Jordan is a phenomenon because they basically don't have a lot of resources, or no resources at all, compared to many other Arab states that have oil or other resources. The Jordanian economy grew about 2.5 to 2.7% in 2024 and Q1 2025, surpassing expectation, right? Admitting especially the regional instability. You have a microeconomic stability that is at 2.4%, so doing very, very well, but they are definitely aid dependent. Jordan relies heavily on external aid, around 1.5 billion US dollars annually from the US, plus billions from the EU, Gulf states, and still is a country that is very much depending on aid and support. The key economic challenges and factors in Jordania itself is high unemployment. They have an unemployment rate that hovers at around 22%. Also, water scarcity and environmental strain comes on top of that. Obviously, it's a very harsh environment, a very hot environment, but more like towards summer, obviously, like let's say July, August. Right now, when I was there a couple of weeks ago, it was beautiful weather with a beautiful wind. They have pretty low growth and structural constraints, right? The average GDP grew only 2 to 3% in the past decade, and they need a lot of structural reforms. And you feel that a little bit, right, to boost the productivity. Some people said as fun that the Jordanian people, you know, they are not really outgoing, they don't really attack. And I'm not talking about everyone, right? It's just like in general, they made a joke about it. Jordanians like to just sit and eat and sit outside, right, and enjoy everything. And then we can compare that to many cultures, like say Spanish culture, Portuguese culture. I'm half Portuguese, pretty similar to there. So they don't have so much of a, let's say, even incentive, I would say, right? Because if you have a bigger incentive to work hard, to make more money, all of these kind of things, if you compare it to European countries and so on, even though they also have their struggles, obviously, but still, it felt like a very chill, very high lifestyle, very safe, even though considering where they're positioned, city or country has beautiful nature. So overall, I really loved it, and I would always go back, and I would always emphasize that you should definitely once in a lifetime visit Jordan. To wrap it up, Jordan is a stable outlier in a chaotic region, a silent bridge between the West and the Arab world, and a nation definitely punching far above its weight, despite massive internal pressure. If you like this kind of breakdowns from someone who has actually been on the ground, subscribe, I've got more coming.